Okay, well, thanks for joining us, both online and back in the room. So this is not going to be a long session. It's been a long day for all of us. So let's get going. Keep it shortish, promise. Don't want to talk too much. And let's go. So, Noyantis. John, can we have the screen? So, where are we? Obviously, you probably guessed by the accent, we are based in the UK. We are, it's kind of the middle, Nottingham, just outside Nottingham actually. It's the home of Robin Hood, where the legend began. So, international icon, this one, the international icon of English folklore. Stole from the rich and gave to the poor. I'd have stole from the rich and just kept it personally, but that was his say. As Bruce knows, like to go to the pub. I think he over-embellishes a little, but but it is actually the home of England's oldest pub, Ye Olde Trip of Jerusalem. So, if you are ever in the UK, I'd like you to make sure you look us up anyway, and then I will treat you to a pint in Ye Olde Trip of Jerusalem. And it's just at the side of Nottingham Castle, which you can see there at the bottom. Who are we? I personally have been developing Clarion for far too long, as, let's face it, most of us in this room have. We've been with it 30 plus years, but been a third party for, I think it's 14 years now. 2008, I think that was our first release. So yeah, been with you guys for a while now. And I think we've got probably 20 plus products in the arsenal, which is quite nice. They range from quite a few products, various different usages, and that's on purpose. And they've come around from requirements, as Bruce mentioned earlier. They come around from our own requirements as well as your requirements, and where there's blatant opportunities in the marketplace. What do we put about me? Wendy's just done this, so I'm trying to know you read it. So yeah, left school, knew exactly what I knew what I wanted to be actually when I left school, and it was a traffic cop. It was nothing to do with programming. It was the traffic cop. I'm too honest, like I say. And I went to join the police cadets. The local Bobby, as they're known, looked over the desk and laughed at me and said, "Come back in a few years." So I went to report him to the careers development officer at the school or the college, and while I was there, I picked up a leaflet on programming, and that's it. Worked for different organisations, different companies, so on and so forth. And it was back in 2007, 2008 that we actually started doing the templates. And as I mentioned, just in the calendar stuff, it was actually the calendar, the requirement for that actually drew us into doing the third party. I should really give a shout out, actually. There's a Clarion developer, I don't think he's been to the conferences, called Marino. And it was actually, I've never met him except for chatting online. So I should really give special thanks, because it was Marino who actually taught me into releasing the wrapper templates, because he needed to use them himself. We've grown, I've grown. So from literally working on the sofa to, we're only small, 4 of us, but we've got some offices. This is Ada Lovelace House, which is a cracking name for a computer company. If anyone knows your history, Ada Lovelace, kind of acknowledged as the first programmer, if you will. And yeah, this is the offices. You can't really tell, but basically, is the mouse showing? Is the mouse showing? So as you look at the building, the left office here, and there's offices at the back, and they're ours. And yeah, it's great, very nice. It's a team. So as we said, it started out as just myself, and was working on the sofa, and then working in a home office. 2017, decided to leave a full-time career. Nicely paid, full-time career actually. You do question why you did it. But left a full-time career, decided to go full-time with Noyantis. Sorry? You haven't got a question yet. So basically, 2017 on my own, 2018, Wendy went full-time with us, and then 2019, Wengel joined, and then just recently, Oliver's joined us as well. So we are trying to put blood into the Clarion community, and I think that's a good thing. I really do. So the services we offer. We do a lot of wrapper templates, as you've seen. We do a lot of templates which are just pure Clarion as well, so they don't require externals. Chill Cap, we've obviously mentioned today, and I don't really need to show much more there. It's just a hell of a communications library, a really good communications library. And we bolt on top of that the task classes. And I will cover the ones we've got now, and then you guys drive where we take that forward, because it's requirements that really drive the stuff. CodeJock, obviously, CodeJock's got, the bundle consists of about 13 controls. I will show a couple, but it's going to take, we'll be here all night if we try and show them all, so I probably won't. But they range from navigation type controls. In fact, John, we've got the tracker. I'm going to stretch a little as well. They include navigation controls. So what I mean by that is a ribbon bar, command bars. If you've ever used Office, it's your menu across your top. Shortcut bar, which is the navigation down the left. So again, if you've used Outlook and you have your bar on the left and you can control the buttons and you've got content in it, that's the shortcut bar. I forget, what's it called? It attends the weekly webinars in the US, and for years he can never understand my accent, and he always thought I was calling it a chocolate bar, not a shortcut bar. And it's only about 2 years ago that he's actually realised I'm calling it that. Ridiculous, but you've got a shortcut bar and you've got a task panel, and they are navigation type controls. Pros and cons of all of them. Nice feature of the task panel is obviously you put your navigation options in there, you can group them, and you can also give your users the ability to reorganize your content, and it saves and restores them. And there's something to be said for that. Comes back to the thing, we always have this restore default layout, because users will be users and they'll screw things up, and then they'll get on a support call and you'll go to option 2, and option 2 is not what you think it is. So you can restore default layouts on it, but it makes your users feel special. They're tailoring the system to what they want. They don't need all these options which they never use. They want the ones that they use on a daily basis. So put them to the top, and they're straight to what they want. So they're personalising your application, but for themselves. There's a lot to be said for that. It includes a calendar, as you've seen. It includes a syntax editor. Good example. John, have you shown Classify it? Tomorrow. Okay, well, when you see John's Classify it, it heavily uses. Should have done this after Classify it then, because you kind of showcase our products more than we do. But it does syntax highlighting for various different content, SQL, HTML, Clarion. If you can get a Lex file for it, you can syntax highlight it. What else have we got? We've got charting. The charting, I'll show that in a second, is stunning. Literally just stunning. It's probably one of my favourites. There's a flow graph control, which you'd think really not interested in. And in fairness, I did for a lot of years. Didn't really give it the love it required. And then we had to think outside the box for a scenario where we needed to, I'm trying to think what it was, a bit like a point of sale. But it was actually for an industrial system, very dusty environment, and they needed to quickly, big icons and touch stuff to print labels, very dusty environment. We could have wrote all that in Clarion, of course, but the flow graph works on the principle of nodes, and the nodes can be images. And they're all touch friendly, and you can double click and drill into stuff. So it was a perfect vehicle. You populate a queue and just say, and that's the approach again we take with a lot of our controls. If you can write to a queue, you can use our controls. The charting, you can manually do all of the data points and the data series and so on and so forth. Go ahead, I've got no problem with you writing it all manually. Or you can populate a queue and just say, monitor that queue and just plot it. And I want it in a bar. No, I don't, I want it in a line. No, I want it in a pie. and you just switch it at runtime. And there's no reloading the data, you're just visually changing its view. And if that queue ever changes, the chart will automatically repaint itself. So it's just monitoring the queue all the time. So basically, as you change your data, the chart changes. Didn't mention that with the calendar, but the calendar works on the same principle. If it's queue loaded, it monitors the queue. You do a query, maybe SQL, put your data into a queue, your calendar refreshes with your latest data. So you've got charting, you've got navigation, you've got a property grid. You might think, never use property grid. You use them every day. If you Clarion 8 onwards, Clarion 7 onwards, but we don't mention that one. If you are Clarion 8 onwards, you use them every day. Your properties on the right-hand side or your left-hand side or wherever they are is a property grid. And they do come in handy. We use them for questionnaires. So basically, we give back to the dental system I did, you would have to do certain predefined forms to talk to National Health Services, and all the questions were in a particular order. So that was great. But then every practice would have an extra questionnaire or an extra several questionnaires for taking on new patients, or when you attended an appointment, you had to give your latest medical history. And they were all different. And you were forever having to try and do new questionnaires for that and that. So we came up with a questionnaire builder, and you can have it default values, tokens, and so on and so forth. And the best way of presenting that, property grid. You can group the questions, say, here's a question, and I want the answer to be a date. Or here's a question, I want the answer to be one of these multiple choice. And it takes care of all of it for you. And just as I mentioned a minute ago, it works off a queue. So you can do it manually, break a leg. You can bind it to your a table. So you can say, there's a record structure. I need that as a property grid. But exclude certain fields. Don't show the ID in the GUI. You're never going to put that in there. Don't show maybe certain fields that are internal for usage. But the rest of it, name, address, date of birth, so on and so forth, it will read the attributes from your dictionary and give you a property grid. So there you go. You've got an update form created, I don't know. For me, I'd say seconds. You guys, seconds, minutes, and that's it. Draw the property grid, source, table, maybe a couple of excludes, compile. You've now got an update form written. And that future-proofs you. You change your data dictionary, you add a address line 3, recompile, your form's updated. And the data obviously goes back into your fields, so on and so forth. Docking panes are absolutely awesome. Again, in the Clarion environment, you're using them every day. And they just allow you to basically host your windows, host content, all in panes. You can fold them back, hide them, show them, group them, tab them, anything you like. And I am going to show a typical example in a second of an application of ours and how we use them for reusable content. And it's quite powerful. It saves us having to reinvent a lot of wheels. What else is there? There's others in there, I can't remember what they are. But the CodeJock suite it's where we started out. It's probably the most, it's powerful. It's very good. We move on to G series. We bought the rights to Gcalc. Oh, I'm not on there. Shall I sit back down? That tracker's not really working then. It's late, okay. Bruce wears all of us out. The G series. A long time ago, we purchased the rights to Gcalc, GSEC, and LGP, look good package. We didn't purchase the rights for Gcal. We get asked that all the time, but that's Polar software, I think. So Gcalc got a complete rewrite, literally, except for, I think, 3 of the original template prompts. That's all what remains, and the name. The rest got a rewrite from the ground up. It's pure class-based now, and it's a pop-up calendar. So if you just want a very easy calculator, you drop in your app, add the global extension, recompile. You've got a calculator. F5 or whatever key press you put it on. And if you're on an actual entry, if it knows that an entry's got a focus, it will put the answer in there for you. So it's quite nice. It will detect where what's in focus and do the thing accordingly. There's G Media for if you've got an media playback, and we don't although it's a wrapper for different types of media players, we don't tie it to one particular player. Like the code drop calendar is for the code drop calendar. The command bar is for the command bar. G-Media is for different types. So it supports VLC, FastSoft, Viscom, Windows Media Player, and I think there's a couple more. And you can switch that value at runtime. So one user might want to use Windows Media Player, another user might want to use, I don't know, Viscom. Quite like Viscom actually. Compile the license in, fully self-contained.
Gcal, does it support edit in place?
Gcalc?
Yeah. Do you support edit in place?
It's got focus, yes. I mean, I'll do a tentative yes. How's that? Yes, I mean, it should do. It just if Clarion's focus is reporting back correctly, then yes, I think the answer is yes. So we got G-Media. We were going to go G-Sec, G-Security. And then it's a Noyantis session, but then I started using Sequin 7, and I thought, nah, it's kind of pointless. But what we probably will do with that is have it as a bolt-on, because we'd already done some work on that, and it's just left lying there. So I haven't told Bruce this, I haven't told Mike this, but it's probably going to be some kind of interface onto your security settings, if truth be told. And that's, I'm not going to bin the work I've done, but it'll probably come to market of that, because I've done some, there's facial recognition, and there's fingerprint, and there's little pop-up pin numbers, and so on and so forth. So I did all the niceties first, and then I got to writing the security, and there's already really a good couple of wheels out there, so I'm not going to reinvent a third wheel. No point, just no point. And then we've got G-Visuals. So I mentioned that LGP, Look Good package. That, I'm going to demo a couple of things of it today. And G-Visuals kind of does what it says on the tin. It's all to do with visuals. It does answer a couple of bugbears of mine in Clarion. Hands up in the room, who uses drop-down combos? 0. Anyone give us a reason why you don't use them? You use file drop combos? Okay. Okay. But they are file loaded by default. So I've got an update form. I have problems with it, and you definitely get an error 78 in SQL if you go into a form and then come back and try and go back into a form if you're allowing adding on the fly. But there's a lookup. There's an update form in our client screen, and it's a drop down. Well, there's various lookups actually, and there's now what is it? Towns in the UK. We pre-populate the database with the towns. I think there's 47,500 towns, and we have 2 town lookups, one for the office address, one for the invoice address. So I go into my update form, and I'm loading 95,000 records. I'm only in there to change the telephone number. Why am I loading 95,000 records? For no reason. So we've created a combo lookup, and its job is to, as you type, it gets you the nearest n number of records. You control all the attributes of it. You control how many records to read ahead. It can give you the effect of the page loaded. The user just arrows down, and it will load where it needs to load. So you don't lose anything, but it's very defined of where you type. So it's like a combo, but it's a combo lookup, and I'll show you that in a second. So that's part of the G series. We do Drupal, or for the older users, if you remember it was NBit, and that's a HTML editor and a HTML viewer. The older versions, the NBit, are based on the IE engine, so they are obviously, you don't want to go down that path, and so on. But they have addressed it. They've done a new HTML5 engine, which is obviously better. So, and that's when they rebranded to Drupal, or Drupal Tech as they are, and we do the wrappers for those as well. So we do incorporate our HTML editors into our software. It's brilliant for email, as you would expect. We have a productivity section. I won't mention a couple of elements of that because they're not formally released, but there is a PDF viewer in there. Just like the G Media, we don't tie to just one. We tie to, I think there's about 4 or 5 different PDF viewers. So it supports Tracker for the people who've still got the Tracker control. It supports Tracker, Adobe, Skysoft, Thorax, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thorax is brilliant. It's free. free OCX, PDF viewer, and it's really fast, very lightweight, and yeah, that's what we use in our applications. And I think there's Viscom. Viscom do a PDF viewer, and they do an image viewer which can open PDFs. So it supports those as well. And last but not least, and this is a relatively new, and this is more Wendy's domain, we actually offer web hosting, which is something new for us. Linux, Windows, or WordPress hosting. We're really competitive because we are. And we also offer VPSs. And there are 3 different bands, and they're on the website. I'm not going to go into them, but they are very lightweight, or more maybe a single developer who wants a couple of sites, or you can host a load of them. So there's different plans, 3 different plans. We've tried to keep it relatively simple. We chose wisely our back-end infrastructure because you've got to, because if something goes wrong, it's me you're coming after, and I don't want it. So we chose very wisely. The data farms are in the UK and in the US, so you can choose. But for more of your static content, then it supports a thing called edge caching. So basically, your static content would be edge cached anyway. So regardless of where you are in the world, you're going to get fast content using that technology. All of it you can turn on and off, and they include free SSL certificates, so on and so forth, as you would expect with web hosting. So that's a newer facility that we've done. So the Chilcat, we mentioned, there's 100 plus base libraries, one product. Some elements of it are free, some elements are require your license. What we've just done recently, we never did in the past, was you bought our Chilcat wrapper, and that covered all the base classes, and you got your task classes, of course. For those who don't want the task classes, I'd question why, because they save you. It's not even just days of work. It's not hours. It's not days. It's weeks of work. They really do. The work that's gone into it is ridiculous compared to the cost of them. It really is, and they'll save you just so much. But we do offer it in 2 flavors. You can buy just the base classes only. So maybe you want to use some of the free elements of the library. That's fine. You can buy just the base class wrapper and just use those. That's a relatively newer option for us. We never did in the past. I'd still tell you personally to go for the task classes for the price difference, because you're just getting so much more. Jeff?
I'm interested in the zero API control that you have.
That's just one of the task classes.
Is that the Chilcat? Do you need Chilcat for that?
You do. All of the task classes are built upon the base classes of Chilcat. So for zero, it uses. They've discontinued the OAuth 1, so you don't really need the OAuth 1, and even the older OAuth 1 connections are now been told to change. So it uses OAuth 2, JSON, object, REST, probably a few, string builder, so on, that kind of thing. So you will need the base classes, but the task class does it all for you.
Okay, so the Chilcat license, can you explain that?
Yep.
Is that different to the Kojak
we do have that. Anything we ever wrap includes royalty-free runtimes. So you buy it once, and it's yours to use in perpetuity forever.
Okay, so we buy the product from you, and then you sort out the royalties with the Chilcat.
No, you go directly to the Chilcat site, and I've got the links coming up shortly. Okay. You buy their one-off license. It includes a 12-month subscription plan, but that subscription is for your maintenance, as ours. We won't like you to keep up to date and so on and so forth, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. Not everybody does. I've got plenty of users who get our products, they do what they want to do, great, they're happy, it's out in the field, and they don't really want to go and change. We'll take the calendar for example, they've done the calendar, they're happy, it's running, and they go, I don't really need to keep up with Kojak's calendar maintenance or our maintenance. Bit of a pity, but c'est la vie. That's how it is. Same with all of the products.
Okay, so and then per developer, is there a per developer license for the?
They do a 1 and a 2, and so it is a per developer license, yeah.
Okay.
And our wrapper templates are per developer.
And it's not per product, so you can add it, if you're a single developer with multiple products, you can add it to
run it out as many customers, as many products, run it
Okay.
out as much as you like. Yep.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's very friendly on that. Kojak, got some news on the Kojak licensing, which you will all want to know, and it changes from the 1st of October. So Kojak's got 13 separate products, something like that. We mentioned the navigation ones and syntax and charting and so on and so forth. They sell them individually, and you can buy our wrappers individually. Now, they sell them as a bundle, and the bundle is something like 4.5, basically the price of 4.5 or 4.6 of the actual individual products. So if you're going to buy 4 of them, you might as well, you're within touching distance of buying the whole bundle. If you're going to buy 5 of them, it's cheaper to buy the bundle. As of the 1st of October, they are not selling them individually anymore. So that has just been announced, I think this last week. So you will have to buy the bundle. So don't shoot the messenger. It is what it is. Okay. But very nicely, they have give us a 50% discount. So if you're ever going to opt for it, really, now's your time to opt for it. So they've given it, I've told them, they've really supported our conferences in the past, to be fair to them. So I just contacted Colleen in sales. She's been with them years. She was my original contact. Just contacted her, and she was like, yep, no problem. Thank you for presenting. Good luck. Glad to hear the conferences are back on, and here's a 50% voucher for everybody. So fair play to them, I think. But yes, so now's the time if you are thinking of it. Yeah. G-Visuals, we mentioned those. Drupal, mentioned those. Productivity, the PDF. There is a word processor and spreadsheet, but they're not formally released, so we'll skip those. And the web hosting. And our plans and our servers all come with 99.9% SLAs, which means you get 99.9% SLAs. Service level agreements, I presume everyone knows. Gonna show some, yeah, I'm gonna show now, because otherwise lose your interest. Keep the audience. I promised to show an application. Gonna have to go to that to close that. Here's one of our applications. It's our Sequin login screen. Nice login screen, Bruce. Thank you very much. Okay. Dashboards go in there, but the dashboard's currently in dev. We do have fold-out widgets and so on and so forth, but it's in dev, so it's not there. Okay, we've got across the top a command bar, and I use that for the navigation around the top. As you would expect, we have navigation pop-ups. Sorry, not that one. I might as well go into that while I'm here. Okay, our setup center uses a task panel on the left, as you can see, and we've got our options, and then we select them, and we've got our option, our window on the right. There you go. Oh, my resolution is not quite right because it's not. It's wrapping around. Okay. Now, here's the thing. You might see a slight delay. If I press categories, slight delay, and then it opens. That's because this bit here, from this corner down to here, this corner, that's a Clarion window, but it's hosted in a docking pane. And I've got, you can have your docking panes tabbed and so on, which you've seen in the Clarion environment. We go with the interface here that you're really only wanting to look at one, but it is an MDI interface. You can have, all the windows are all active, so when we switch from one to the other, if I'm on a particular record, so there you go, I'm on allergic to penicillin, and I'll go off to banks, and I've got no bank set up, and I'll go back to alerts, I'm still where I was, okay? So the windows themselves are hosted in the docking panes. And the rule of the docking pane is, If you can get to the handle of something, anything, you can dock it. So that handle can be a Clarion control, a Windows control, a procedure. Clarion window has a handle. So if you can get to its handle, you can dock it. It could be an external. There's even an option in the an example where we get the, I think it's Notepad. And we just say, okay, get me the handle, and there's a method in there to get the handle of a window running by its title. You say, okay, well, grab Notepad, I need that docked in my window. So it looks like it's part of your app, but it's not. It's an external application running, as Notepad is, but it grabs it, pulls it in. You can get to its handle, you can dock it. So these are actually running Clarion windows. And when you dock them, you can say, oh, I know, if it's not being docked, and there is some logic in there, if it's being called and the docking manager knows, right, when that window with this procedure opens, grab it, because you belong to me and I'm going to be docked. But if that's not been set up like that, when that window opens, just opens in the traditional style. It opens and puts itself in the save restore location, where if you've got that set and it's got a title and bar and resize and icon and all the usual stuff. But if it's being told to docked, then you've got the settings to say, grab it, strip its title, turn the icon off, turn the system menu off, so on and so forth, and just take control of that window. So these are actual Clarion windows running on separate threads. So, and every one of these are running in this style. So you get that slight delay when it's loading because it's using a term which we've called lazy open. So it only loads on demand. Otherwise, I mean, it's like 50 odd options in here. So I would go into Setup Center and I'd have 50 odd options all open at the same time. One, Clarion threading won't do it. Won't allow you to start 50 threads at the same time. It will blow up. But two, I mentioned G-Visuals. Why am I loading 95,000 records when I only want to go and change a telephone number? Same here. Why am I loading loads of records? Well, it loads of screens when I'm not opening them. I don't intend to open them. So you've got lazy open. So that's the task panel on the left. Similar setup, we've got our command bar across the top, but then on our windows, we actually have another command bar. So I have a little drop down, and that controls some of the things of our report control you saw yesterday. So I can turn on my grouping bar, and I can turn on my filter bar, although I've got no data in this one. I can print it. I can restore my layout. Oh, there's no fields. That's a very poor example. Let's go with this one and maybe hide the description. And then I can bring that back. So I've got my field picker in a fold out. Bring it back. Yep, don't need it anymore. So close it, keep it out. No, move the mouse. Keep it out of the way. So you can have your content folded out the way. It's just a handle, remember? So I've got a docking pane window, docking pane manager on it, but then on each of my windows, I decided to put a docking pane manager on each of my windows to say, you take charge of my content. I've got you could have a Clarion list, I've got a report control, but it could be a Clarion list by the same token, and so on. I put them in panes. Hey presto, my resizing is taken care of. As long as the content is, you're resizing, because it will grab it and take it to what it needs to be resized to. So it's a nice little tip. So that's we've just covered docking and command bars and report control and so on and so forth. Now, I mentioned, I think it was to yourself yesterday, I forget your name, sorry, but I said, would you consider that a Clarion-looking app? And now I'll pose a question to you. Would you consider that to be a Clarion-looking app? A traditional Clarion-looking app?
It's just like the wizard, mate.
Oh, cool, yeah. It is. I got the idea from Clarion 4 Wizardrons. So, but yeah, that's the idea. And you can tweak stuff, you can fold out, fold back, so on and so forth. So I promised I'd show that, and that's a typical type. You can actually, via the update form, as you can see. One last thing I wanted to quickly show on here is reusing content. So I've got here, let's look at contacts. So these are loaded on demand, and these are Clarion windows down at the bottom. But they're loaded on demand, and they take them and they're hosted in a docking pane, so we can see, okay, yep, there's a docking pane, resize it, so on and so forth. My Clarion window is doing its resize accordingly. And that takes its parentage from parameters coming in from the list at the top. So now I've got a contacts window, and as I navigate through, I'm just passing the parameter across to it to say, go and reset, and your report control has a reset field just like a Clarion list does, so it's resetting, as you would expect. But then if I go to my suppliers, I've got my contacts there. And there's a contact for that. I'm using that exact same window, because it's just a Clarion window, belonging to a parent, getting its parameters from a parent. And we pass in two parameters, your parent type, client, supplier, staff member, so on and so forth, and the ID of what it is. And now I've got a window, I've got several windows that are basically can be used throughout the whole system. So they're all generalized. We have a global search, which lets you scan all different types of records at once, and it says, okay, search for Andy. Well, I found these customers with Andy, I found these suppliers with Andy, I found these staff members, I found these contacts, and you go down the categories, and as I'm clicking, I've got all my child windows just receiving the parameters. Go and reset yourself to customer Andy. Go and reset yourself to supplier Andy. And I'm never redoing that window. I've got one window, or I've got several of them, used throughout the whole system, reusable code. And if I need to enhance that window, enhance it in one place, and the whole system's enhanced. Docking panes comes in really handy for that. I'm not saying you can't do it in other methods, I'm just saying you can implement that. We could do it in a Monday webinar. I could show you how to do that. It's very, very simple. Wrapping up. The only other one to show is the G visuals. Now there's other elements to it. It's late, I don't want to go into it too much, but we've mentioned, there's just some validation, so you can, it will give you visual indicators. The G visuals is the tip behind that. Everything is properties of the class, so you set your own properties. So we've got a password field. I've said it's not mandatory, so it hasn't give it any kind of colour and so on and so forth. But if you are going to put something in it, I said I want it to contain uppercase and lowercase and numbers and certain special characters. And it's whatever you type in has got to be in these ranges. So if I put in, and I said I think I've put the length minimum of 10. So if I put in AAA, now it's put a red indicator underneath. You can control the thickness, of course, but it's now said, okay, you're going to specify a password, but that's not what you asked us. That's not good enough compared to what you asked. So I'm going to say, okay, BBB and CCC and DDD. Now I've gone over my 10, but I've not given it a number. Give it a number. Now I give it a character. We've got a little green indicator. Now it's good enough. Company name, it's met. That's a mandatory one. Telephone numbers. Again, you control the characters, but I've said I'm going to allow plus, minus, and brackets. Parentheses, as we mentioned earlier, brackets. So I can do, okay, plus 441, and straight away it's giving me a green because it's met its criteria. If I was to start putting, oh yeah, and it's extension, no, because I've said I don't want EXT in there. If you do want EXT, put it in the permissible characters, and it'll allow you to put EXT in there at the same time. So you control all your content. Same with your postal codes. You haven't got a postal code on this, but you've got postal codes. You've got, and Bruce will love this, I've put it, you can put it in your dictionary in the extended name attributes. I've actually got questioned why I bothered putting it in there and so on and so forth. So I just referred them to Clarion Hub and just said, read that doc and you'll understand why we've taken that approach. It just makes sense. So you can do them manually. You can do it via template extension. You can put them in your dictionary, which is the obvious better place to do it because you've just changed your application. And it comes under a function called validate, and you say validate phone number, or validate phone number plus required, or REQ. And you build it up with, comma separated. You build up your requirements, and that will kick in. So you've got passwords, phone numbers, email addresses. So, okay, ABC. It's got something in, it's not an email address. @sign, that's still not an email address. BBC, that's not an email address. Dot, that's not an email address. Anything after the dot, that's kind of an email address now. So it will validate an email address, and it'll validate a URL. So www, that's great. BBC, that's Good question. We should have a dot after that. I think that's a failure. Need to. Yeah, that's not quite true. Is it legal?
Yeah, you could go and catch up the pub.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's good. Okay, I'll take that. Yeah, it's good. It's working. So, and that's some of the validation. There's others in there about changing attributes. So you can control your attributes at runtime to say, I want all my entries, not the rest of the controls, I want all of my entries to be flat. And these are called styles. And you can just store them. There's a little table, and you just put in the sections. You don't write a whole style. By default, all of them will be set to do not change. So leave it alone. I don't want my whole change, the system changing. I just want my buttons to be flat, or that kind of element. So you can do it per type of control. But the combo lookup is the one I mentioned. So we just drop down, and the data we've got in fact, actually, I can probably show it. There's the data it's coming off. So there's a list of there. And the reason I mentioned this one is this is the update form, and it's reading some settings from the dictionary by the X settings. So the combo lookup, I shall start typing in C, and it jumps straight to the C. Now, I'm just going to rise. I've set this setting to say load 6. Load 6, and then show a little indicator to say more records. Even the indicator you control. So if you want dot, 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 change the characters to dot, dot, dot. If you want a dot, space, change it, whatever you like. So you control that. So as I type, so it's C, E, yeah, and I've got my 6 from C, E, and as I scroll down, it will carry on loading, just like it's emulating a page loaded, but I'm only ever loading 6 at a time, or 10 at a time, or 20 at a time, or whatever you tell it to load. It's a property called max results, and it will take those settings in. You've got, as well as that, and I've put on here, I want to clear, so it can clear. I want to call a lookup. So I can call a lookup and say, yeah, I want that record. Or I can add. I want to add on the fly. Those buttons, you control the icons, of course, and so on and so forth, but you'll control whether they want to be turned on. Via the extension, that is just an entry you drop. It's a control template. Drop the control template on the window, and there's a series of prompts to say, do you want an add button? Do you want a clear button? Do you want a lookup button? And what your max results are, so on and so forth. There's, just like the report control we mentioned yesterday, you say what table it's coming from, but you can actually do join tables as well. You've got the usual, take the target field value and put it in there, and then you've got extra assignments, so that's great. I want the GUID to be stored in my town GUID, which I mentioned earlier. So I store the town GUID, but I also want you to store some extra information into some other fields, which is quite nice, because then when it goes back into an update form, which is realistically where you're probably going to use it most, it goes back into the update form, it will reverse some of that logic to go, okay, well, you need to look up that record and then do them other assignments. So you're actually doing your record lookups automatically when you go back into the form. And that can include some of your joined tables with your joined values as well. So you've got joins in there, and you've got your field assignments from your joins as well. So it's quite nice. Yeah, and that's that. You've got replace text, which goes throughout our entire product suite. So what I mean by that is you can, there's a little table, you put in what it should look for, what it's replacing it with, and is it a straightforward replace or is it a contains replace? So for example, that's a straightforward value old, because that happens to be defined as value old, and in the table it says find value old and replace with value new. But it contains as well. If the strategy was set to equals, then the second part wouldn't do it. It would still read employee value old is a part of Noyantis. The main reason for that, I'll just finish on this. The main reason for that comes back to our Trando package. Again, our requirements are driven. What a lot of people don't know, you've had that facility in the whole Kojak suite, in the whole product suite actually. From the wrapper's point of view, you've had that for 10 plus years. Maybe, oh, no, you don't. For 10 plus years, maybe even longer. and there was used a system called tokens, and nobody ever used them. I bet anybody in this room ever used the token system? You have? Within the global... Oh, no, sorry, I meant within the Noyantis token system. Yeah, I don't even think people knew it existed. And you would do it, but you'd have to add them all. So I'd have certain tokens, town being one, okay, it's got to be called city. So I would have to set the tokens up in the report control. Then I'd have to do it in the task panel for the menu. Then I'd have to do it in the command bar for the header title. So all of a sudden, I've got loads of tokens, and all my properties being set are passing through the tokens. It's just inefficient. Inefficient application, inefficient loading. So that's been scrapped. G-Visuals will now take the load off that, which means the rest of the products are now faster. You know, that was your shipping lines for, that's done, see? Yeah, this is live dev. Okay, so that was it. And you also got a thing for monitors. I don't want to do, but you can control when your window's open, especially if you're using multiple monitors. Maybe you've got an alert system in your application, support center or something like that. You've got facilities to say, okay, we've only got one monitor, so it's a bit poor, but I've got to open a child window, it's going to open here. But I could say, okay, no, I need that child window to open relative to my primary display or relative to, and I've got multiple displays, you could always say, hook it onto that device ID, and I need you to open that window. I'm going to say primary display, 00, hide the icon, hide the title. Oh, sorry, hide the icon, hide the title. There's a set, which is what we normally have. You call a group, you prime up a group, and you call a method, just as we've done with all our other stuff. And now when I open, that's up there with no title. And that will open up there forevermore. That flash at the end is actually going to go if it's forevermore. But if it's said to only open it the next, oops, it's keyboards really. Only open it there the next 2 times, it will go up and go back, up and go back, and then it'll go back to where it was originally. So I'm not quite sure why you want n number of times, I've got to admit. Okay, you can have 14, but you're holding everybody up. Anyway, that's G-Visuals. And let's go back to where we were up to, play from beginning. Because I've harped on for miles longer than I actually expected. Shock horror. Discounts to be had. Okay, we're going to give you a discount, John. Yeah, I'm going to move. Thank you. Discounts to be had. We're going to give 25% discount off all of our products, starting now. Now, it's up to 25%. The 25% will end UK time, midnight tomorrow night. Then it'll drop to 20. Day after, 15. Day after, yeah, 10. Day after, 5. Day after that, 0. Day after that, plus 5. No.
We need stopwatch.
So up to 25%. So a little incentive there for you to come and see us. So that's off ours. Discount code for ours, because you can purchase them from our store, is CIDC-SA. Thought you might remember that. Oh, we had a question. Sugar. Sorry.
Sorry, so this is Marius Online asks, can you do multiple lookups of the same file in the same form? Like
Yes.
employees, staffs that have multiple places?
Definitely, yep. Go back to our example with the town lookup, and we've got an invoice town and an office town. You can have loads of towns. Yep, you can. In fact, I think our update, we're in the middle of swapping them out and putting them in. I think our update form's probably got 8 on there. So yeah, no problem. All our prices are for single developer. I don't know how the others work. Theirs, I think they're, yeah, I'm not sure how they work. But on ours, they are just small incremental. So if you've got a 2 developer, it's not 2 times the single price. If you've got 3 developers, it's not 3 times. I think it's, from memory, I think it's the single price plus a 1.2. Yeah, times by 1.2 and times by 1.4 or something like that. It's not hard. But they're all on the website anyway. And the discount goes off that. So that's our discount code, CIDC-SA, and it's up to 25, as we said. So there are prices for the chill cat wrapper. That's for the one with the task classes that we mentioned. So at the moment, it's down from 295 down to 221, and these are pounds. So the website will recognise what country you're coming from and offer to give you a different currency. It's up to you if you select it. Purchasing the cheapest. I don't know how the exchange rates work for your location, so use your head and go with the local. go with what's best. The cold drop wrapper, normally $375, that's down to $281. So they are all right savings. Chillcat, you purchase directly from Chillcat, and they're $299. Unfortunately, I think Matt might be away because he's not come back to me. It's either that or he's ignored me, and that's not like him, to be fair. So, and then Kojak, as I said, off the Sweet Pro, it's Clarion bundle, and they're offering you 50%, which is, I've been using them 14 years, and they've never offered anything like that. So, I think that's half decent. So yeah, that's that. I think that's the end. Oh no, prizes. Or should we call it? Okay. Mary, can I borrow you, please? Wend, I would use you, but I want to make sure there's impartiality and we can't be accused of anything.
I'm not sure what we'll be accused of.
Yeah, but if anyone moans, then they can blame Mary and not you. So. Right, so, I'm going to do an Amazon voucher, £25 or whatever it is in your local. You tell me, okay, we're in dollars, then you'll get a $25. You can't see the question.
I'm taking.
You need the mic. Jeff, can she have the mic?
I'm taking direction from
No,
the
I'm
camera crew.
joking. So, is it working?
It should be working.
Okay, so, first to show your hands, you're going to have to see who raises the hand first. And this is for the in the room. Online, we've got you covered in a second, so don't panic. So, during what I just showed you, if you're still awake and you paid attention, what is the official name I used for the part of G-Visuals that allows you to look up a record? Look at you.
Too hard, Andy.
Slackers.
Really? I said it 3 times, if not 4 times.
Is that a hand? You moved.
This could go really bad. I thought this would be really easy. Wow. Okay, what else can we do? Okay. Earlier on today in our training, APIs. When you're using APIs, on your records, what should you store?
Hands. Hand. I see it.
The ID and the version.
£25 or you want rand or whatever, so there you go. I was going to give 2 away, but really? Anyone want to guess at the G-Visuals? You really can't go far wrong. Really bad.
Did you have a guess?
Drop, look up.
Ish. You're 50% right. I'll give you a clue.
Is that 15% off?
No. Let me think of another one. I was going to give 2 away, but I don't know if you actually learnt it.
What about the online?
Okay. What's our discount code?
To the gentleman who followed the instructions.
CIDCSA, yeah. I thought you said 2 C's then, to be fair. No, need to play that back. But yes, Scott. Okay, so we got 2. There you go. Thank you very much. That was way harder. A few years ago, I did a traditional game of bingo, and it went for hours because nobody knew how to play bingo. I was really shocked. Okay, and for online, nobody showed your hand, so tough. No. What we're going to do, send an email to sales@Noyantis. It shows that you've watched this at least. Send an email to sales@noyantis.com with who you are. And then during the Monday webinar, so you've got to attend our Monday webinar for it. During the Monday webinar, when we get back, what we'll do is we will put all the emails in a list and we'll do a random number generator and choose one of the lines. And then you'll get a £25 equivalent of Amazon in your country. There you go. Thanks, everyone.